and that's why I'm alive. Busting out the scenes, time to live my dreams.
Okay, we are live with Around the Halo episode 4. I am joined here by my very good friends, Matthew Marcolini in the upper left from Little Flower Media, Father Blake Britton from Florida, and an enthusiast of a variety of things. In the lower left, John Blevins, CEO of Little Flower Media, and Bridget Richardson on the lower right from Mac Studios UST. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. I appreciate all of you taking the time away from your either sporting events or political conventions in order to join us for tonight's episode. We're going to take a minute for you to go around 30 seconds of an introduction going around the Halo, so to speak, just so that our viewers remember all of you. And this is, Marco, is this your first time on this particular show? This is your second one. Okay. All right. It's just me and my lack of memory because I have only edited 9 million episodes in 24 hours. So it's all coming together. Now, Marco, why don't you start it off?
My name is Marco. I'm the CFO of Little Flower Media. I guess I buy the gas to keep the trains running. And I just got back from Europe and I didn't die. So that's great.
Congratulations on your non-death in Europe. Yeah. That's an anomaly, but
very worried.
Good for you.
Was very worried.
She and I called each other daily. We were both concerned. Father Blake, go for it.
Great to see you all again. Father Blake Britton, parochial vicar at 4 parishes in Florida. Great to be with you as always, and also associated with Word on Fire and the Word on Fire Institute and do work with them. So super excited to be here as always.
All right, Jonathan Blevins.
I am Jonathan Bearded Blevins, the CEO of Little Flower Media, mostly because I don't know what CFO even stands for.
Amazing.
I love these shows, and I just want to give a little shout out to Bridget and to UST this evening.
Wow, way to bring props.
I'm offended I don't have a prop.
Actually, there was one for you when John and I went the first time, but we couldn't fit it in our backpack, so you're going to have to get it on the next
Yeah, we
trip.
Talked about it. There's a lot of things you have to do next time we all go to
We tried, but it's going to be excellent.
Do you see this look of disbelief?
You had a nice little gift bag.
We did. It was an incredible gift bag, and unfortunately, we didn't bring any extra luggage space, so that's all right. It's still there. Bridget, go for it.
Hi, Bridget Richardson, producer at Mac Studios, and I'm drinking coffee at 8 o'clock to stay awake because that's where I'm at in my life.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, clearly you've just moved, and congratulations, because this is the last time that room will be as clean as it is right now. I hope you enjoy.
And it's messy.
I hope you enjoy the reality of moving. All right, so just as a reminder,
I left my coffee in the bathroom.
Ew.
We'll give you.
Wash my face really quick.
We'll give you a minute. Well, you look fantastic.
Dude, you need to go on YouTube and watch a video of like zoomed in flushing the toilet and the particles that come out and just get all over your toothbrush.
He's washing his face. He just said he washed his face.
That's disgusting. Okay. -5 points.
That's why there's a lid on the toilet, by the way, just in case anyone's curious. So moving right along, just as a reminder to chat, a couple of things. One is that we do have notifications disabled during our shows here, not because we don't love you, but just because we're trying to kind of create some rhythm here with Around the Halo. And just as a reminder that I do give out points that don't matter very much like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where I'm just basically choosing my favorite person, every night, and it all kind of comes together that way. But as long as we're cool with it and everybody's having fun, then we're doing a great job. So we are going to jump right in with tonight's topics, starting with the super entertaining Russia and Ukraine. And I started with this from a perspective of what do we think is the observer's responsibility? So we're clearly on the other side of the world. I don't personally have a connection. I don't have any family that is over there. I know some people do that we have actually talked to in the stream, strangely enough, today. But that's one of the cool things about the internet is how it brings people together. But where do you think, as an observer of a situation like that, where does your responsibility lie? What do you think, Bridget?
I think it definitely, especially like if you're a Christian or you identify as just like a person of goodwill, it for sure has to lie in like prayer and like oneness with people going through like the victim side of just, kind of journeying with them and like going to that place, maybe like reading Lamentations and being in that space to, think about the grief part of it. And then, the other side of it is to look at your life and like be grateful for the small things, like, my kids laughing at me, or, just being able to sit down with my family and enjoy time together. I think that's one side of it. And then the other side, I think is the more difficult thing is like to like pray for our enemies. And what does it mean to turn the other cheek when you're talking about war, and like just like go into deep contemplation about those kinds of things. So in my head, it's like looking to the philosophers and reading some text there that kind of takes you a little bit out of yourself and out of your situation, so that you can, you're grateful maybe for like not having to be in that place of war and ruin and, sadness. But, I think the news media nowadays too they're reporting like some of the lighter things, or even like some of the goodness, like the president of Ukraine, like there's been tons of stories about him. Right. But I think it is a time of like grieving and deep thought and contemplation about the things that matter. And, we even talked earlier about like contemplating death and what that means for us. So,
Yeah, we've actually talked about this a bunch. I know John and I have, about kind of the fine line between social media and how you're using it. So like, that there's a piece of it where it can be very wholesome and enriching, and a piece of it that perhaps is chasing a little bit of attention for me today. Don't forget about me today. I know that there's a war going on, but also I'm here and I usually get attention. What do you think, John? Is that a danger in situations like this?
Yeah, this whole like war being played out on social media as well is very, very surreal for me. As someone who, we started a new media company, we're spending a lot of time online, and this is a lot of the content that we're seeing. It's horrible stuff. My heart breaks. My little sister that we adopted is from Ukraine. She still has family there. That's made it a little more real for me than just kind of seeing it on social media. But I think you ask, like, what do we do as observers? I think we have to pray this obvious. I think that we need to be fasting. And Pope Francis said something a couple of years ago that has just really stuck with me. For some reason, I've always been very empathetic. I'm good at empathizing with others, and sometimes to a fault, where I like focus too much. Like, I'll never forget when I left the Dark Knight Rises movie, and James Holmes shot up that theater in Aurora, Colorado. And I'm looking on Twitter immediately afterwards, and I'm like, I can't wait to see what everyone's saying about Dark Knight Rises. And the only thing was like terror and horror. And it stuck with me for weeks. It was like not a healthy thing. And then Pope Francis very soon after that was talking about how we have to empathize. When those things happen, we should be crying. We should cry with others. That when part of the body hurts, right, we're all hurting. And so I think that one thing we can do is we can have empathy, and weep with the people that are really suffering and struggling right now. And finally, I think one thing we can do is support the Ukrainians who are here, right? In a very real way. Go to Ukrainian churches and pray with them. Look up they're near us. I just found this morning, near us, there's multiple Catholic churches who are going to be doing marches and prayers towards other Ukrainian local churches nearby. And they're going to be doing rosaries on the way and praying for what's going on. So I think there's a lot that we can do. But also it's just very heartbreaking stuff and very, very surreal at the moment.
Yeah, I know that I personally have had this discussion in the past with some of my extended family where they seem to be kind of calloused about things that are going on in the world. And when you dig a little deeper, it just turns out that they feel helpless. You know, there's just, they don't have like a clear-cut way to help or do anything, so they end up just going about their lives and sort of making light of the situation because they just don't know how to handle the emotion that goes along with it. What do you think, Father Blake? Is there a clear-cut way to kind of channel that energy into something positive?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's two things. I'll echo what everyone else said as far as prayer and fasting. That's always our first priority as Christians. But the second is education. This is something very important that our society doesn't do very well. And I think even the tendency to avoid a conversation around politics and religion, for example, this avoidance of really two of the only topics that really matter most in our life, which is religion and politics, these things that help dictate the order and the structure of our society. Well, educating ourselves on the socio-political, socio-economic, about all the backgrounds and the historical developments which have led to this moment, so that we might, with authority, and that we might, with proper discernment and a formulation of proper thoughts and ideas, help guide society. This has always been the role of the church. And I think about this from a perspective as a priest, that the task of the church is to be in the world, but not of the world. And so we don't have a worldly mentality, but we still have to be as gentle as a dove, as cunning as a serpent. And that means being well acquainted with the different historical trends, movements, pop things that are going on in culture. And so for me as well, I think that educating ourselves as to why events like these are taking place, doing our own research beyond just what the media is providing for us, but also going back and looking at the history of Russia, looking at the history of Ukraine, at the history of the post-World War II European continent, and then combining that with our Catholic genius of evangelization, of preaching, our moral theology, our philosophy, that then allows us as a church to give a response that's holistic and not partial, which is something that's not very common nowadays. So yes, I agree 100% with everything that's been said. And I would just add that little caveat about our responsibility as Christians to be very well versed and educated about the economics, the sociology, the politics of the world, so that we might bring it to Christ.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Marco, being already so well versed in those things, was able to give us a 3-minute synopsis before the show even started, so he could explain the entire conflict to me and the geopolitical ramifications that lies therein. So, Marco, but instead, I'm just going to ask you what you think an observer's responsibility is, even though I know you could explain it to us with your time.
Pray.
Okay, great. Moving on. No, go ahead.
No, that's it. Right. Like, we can't other than being like hypercritical about the propaganda we consume, right? I mean, because we have to remember, like, there's so much. You have to assume anything you are seeing online, unless it's a direct viral social media post, one is probably from 3 years ago, and two is probably some sort of propaganda post, which is fine. Like, that's like, we need, like, that's the way like things work. Like, they need the boots on the ground men who are also men and women who are also consuming the social media from their phones while they're in the middle of this war, right? To have stories that fire them up, to stand arm in arm, to fight. Like the greatest story of all were the guys on Snake Island, right? And I won't use the words that they used, but the Russian ship said, Ukrainian soldiers, stand down. They said, Russian ship, screw off, and hung up the phone, and then they died. It's like, come on, that's amazing. But like, we have to be really responsible in what we repost, what we post, what we comment on, and we have to know that it's not about us, it's not about our feelings, it's not about working on any other sort of justice issues right now. People are dying. It doesn't, like, don't. You see all these things that, like, somebody posted, like, but hey, let's not forget climate change is the real threat. Like, okay, I may not agree with that at all in any way, shape, or form, but like, let's have that conversation at a different date. People are dying in droves right now. So let's pray, let's hope, let's pray for Vladimir Putin and his actual conversion and those around him, like, and really fast for him. And like, mean it in your heart of hearts, mean it, right? And pray for those people that are there. One of my good friends I went to college with is now a priest in Ukraine, and we've been going back and forth. He said, don't buy anything Russian that was made in Russia, and just pray and go to daily mass for him, offer your rosary for him, and pray without ceasing, because that's the only thing that's going to stop this.
All good points. And just congratulations to our panel that we did it. We got through it. Is a tough conversational topic right now, but I do think it adds value to people's lives. Moving along to item number 2, Black History Month and your favorite advocates. So this is one that I admittedly have a moment with, because it highlights for me that it's one of the things that I am lacking in, that I don't know enough about. And so it's a great reminder for me to do the research, to listen to people that are in the know, and to seek out knowledge in this regard. You want to start us off with this one, John? Favorite advocates?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot, and really, the one I say often that Twitter is my favorite social media app, and I love it. I love Twitter because for me, I have followed a lot of people that I know and some that I don't know, but have come to know and come to trust. And Twitter has really been what has kind of woken me up to some of the major injustices in our country, in particular over the last 5 years of racism. And racism is a pro-life issue. And I hate how politicized it gets right now in our country. Every single time that an injustice happens, both sides just take things to the absolute extremes. And as Catholics, we're called to call out the injustice and to pray and to act for an end to racism. And I think that right now, Father Josh Johnson is doing a really, really good job of that as a priest in the Catholic Church, because he has this, I don't know him well other than from the last few years, but he seems to have a father's heart for all people. He seems to be able to bridge the gap and be able to talk to people of different beliefs and have them trust him. And he does a great job of calling out what we should be doing as Catholics, right? For praying for repentance for the people in the past, and pray for repentance for any racism that's happening now. And then acting and showing us what we can be doing, how we can be praying, how we can be fasting, who we should be calling. And he did a great article that what I'm going to do here is actually it's really long, and I'm just going to post it in the chat. But it's a conversation he had with the Church Life Journal at Notre Dame about communal guilt and the Black Catholic experience in America. And it's a very long, great interview that he did, and I'll share the link. Very worth reading. But he is someone who has really opened my eyes and inspires me to be a better Catholic and to be truly pro-life.
Good stuff. Well said. Father Blake, I know that you had somebody on the list as well that was in terms of favorite advocates going back in history. What do you got?
Yes, very, very much so. Father Augustus Tolton, the first Black priest ordained in the United States of America in the 19th century. He's the descendant of slaves liberated after the Civil War. Amazing priest, actually died very young at the age of 43 years old. He was ordained at 31. So he didn't have that many years of priesthood, yet he became incredibly influential, especially in the Archdiocese of Chicago, where he worked in the inner city. He also traveled with different bishops around the country to help spread the gospel and specifically to preach to Black Americans. And one really touching story is that when we received our first cardinal in the Archbishopric of Baltimore, so this is Cardinal Gibbons specifically asked that Father Augustus Tolton be with him in the sanctuary as a symbol of America. So to send this message that this is the Church of the United States of America. And that's really amazing that the first primate, as they call him, and that's the canonical term, but the first really patriarch of the American Church thought that it was vital to have this African American as part of his clergyman and also as part of his initiation process into the overseeing the pastoral care of the United States. And we see how that has borne fruit even to having our own cardinal now, Archbishop Wilton Gregory in Washington, D.C., who is an African American that's a patriarch of the church here in the United States. So it's just beautiful to me to see Father Augustus Tolton's, his influence, the things that he had to go through as far as his own personal persecution because of his race and other factors as well. And the fact that he never discredited the beauty of Catholicism, even when meeting racist Catholics, which I think is a really powerful distinction, is that he was able to say the church herself is beautiful. And I recognize the gospel and I recognize Christ. So I'm not going to renounce the church, but I am going to renounce those people who are not supporting what the church actually teaches by either supporting any form of racism or what have you. And so he was able to make that distinction. I think sometimes nowadays we can't make, not just in regards to race, but in many other factors where we have to distinguish the reality from maybe bad people who do bad things. And Father Augustus was really, really good at that, and it bore a lot of fruit for the church and for the United States overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that before stream, we had a brief discussion about how it is no longer February and is now March. And March is, of course, Women's History Month. But it turns out that Bridget came prepared to cover both sides of this particular element. You want to go ahead, Bridget?
Absolutely. With a book recommendation. So anyone who has little kids, Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison. It's a fantastic book. And it just goes over like women throughout, like Black women throughout history who have made an impact in some way. And I want to focus on my daughter's favorite right now, who is Wilma Rudolph. Here she is. She's awesome. I don't know if y'all watch Xavier Riddle. She has an episode on Xavier Riddle, so check it out. But her story is amazing, right? Like when she was little, she had like her leg was paralyzed, and so she had like stents on her leg. And then she ended up winning like the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympics. Like she's a rock star. And then when in her hometown of Tennessee, when they wanted to throw a parade for her, they were going to make the parade segregated. She was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going. Like, I don't want to be a part of that if it's a segregated event, because it's the Olympics, right? Like everybody's coming together for this. Her story is absolutely amazing. And not only is she a Black woman in history that's really influential, but look at all the things that she's overcome, like from having a disability as a child and getting teased because of that, and then coming out of that to win the Olympics for like a track and field. Like that is just amazing. So her story crosses so many boundaries and like brings so many people into the fold to discover more about her. So my daughter loves her. She runs around the house and says, ready, set, go all the time. So Wilma Rudolph, look her up. She's amazing. And this book is awesome. If Matt, you need to get this book and just give yourself like a little intro, just read a few stories. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Thanks.
You know, we could do a book club, like totally into that.
That would be excellent. I have feeling that it's slightly above my reading level, but I'm going to try really hard to sound out all the words and get it right, because I know that it's important.
Can we please start a book club with kids' books? Because I'm in. I can commit to reading those.
I bought hundreds of dollars worth of kids' books over the last thing.
Yeah,
there's this
new parent
kind of like kid book. Have you ever seen them where you flash the flashlight behind the pages? And different...
Pretty cool, huh?
I don't even know.
Oh, listen, I'm a grown
awesome.
man. I don't care.
It's amazing technology.
I want all books to do this. I was like, what is this witchcraft? But it's amazing. You guys got to look them up. They're unbelievable.
Awesome. All right. Matthew Marcolini, favorite advocate.
Favorite advocate. I was gonna say a completely different thing than I was going to now. That's not a bad thing.
Fine, we'll do it live.
We're doing it live. No, so I actually dropped in the chat. Augustus told him to be a complete copycat is one of my favorite stories of the modern church in America. And two, I think what is so beautiful about his story though is that when we talk about racism, like John was saying, it gets so polarized. When in reality, what we're really talking about is grave sin, right? We're talking about like disqualifying somebody from the body of Christ based on their skin color is grave sin, right? That makes zero sense. It's been condemned since literally 836 for 15 different reasons. And you can just go back through your Denzinger for all those theologians out there and just quote it time and time and time and time again. This is a uniquely American thing that was caused by geopolitical and economic things in Africa and in America, coinciding to create one of the greatest travesties of 400 years of history, right? Or 200 years, however long it was. Terrible time, right? We would never abide somebody or an institution that made its money off of human sex trafficking, to get right into it. Why is it okay that the Jesuits have not done anything? And Georgetown literally exists because of the slave trade. I think Augustus Tolton would have serious questions about that. And it's great that he didn't discount the church. And of course, you don't stop going to the gym because fat people are there, right? Sorry, myself included, Mr. 300. It's Fat Tuesday. It's like just ask the 12-ounce steak I just ate 2 hours ago. There's some butter on it too. But like that's like there's serious questions like we have to ask ourselves as Catholics, and like as like myself, a conservative, like there's serious questions we have to ask ourselves. Are we building environments that we would want our children, right, and and the children of our children to grow up in and to know and to see the love of Christ every day? Like what does that mean, right? It's not saying we're the same, because like different ethnicities, different cultures, right? Like, and that's okay. Like one of the biggest issues in America is us trying to all be the same, right? Like, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's a tapestry that's completely different, right? The foods are different and it's awesome, right? Why can't the people be different and it also be awesome? You know, but so Augustus Tolkien, Josephine Bakhita is also one of my favorites. And my favorite modern day person advocate right now is Sister Josephine.
Oh yeah.
Sister Josephine is on the board of one of the nonprofits that my wife and I heavily supported that she actually still works for, the Library Society. And I mean, her story is like, she is just an amazing, amazing woman that I will be so proud for my daughter to look up to as a sister. And I think that's what we're talking about, people's eternal salvation with these things, right? And that's why this topic and this moment matters more than I think anything else we've talked about so far. Is like these are people that we can emulate in everyday life, whether you're white, black, whatever color you are, like, and that's something really beautiful. I've finally taken the lead. I just wanted to talk long enough.
No, that's fine. You just talk long enough, you eventually get the lead. That's okay.
Minus two.
Yeah, except you said that we're not all the same, and I think that we're all the same, and I'm deeply offended that you even didn't bring up that there's differences, even minor ones, between people.
You mean like the presidents that go to war zones and everything, and then like take off their jacket and like
exactly,
like,
exactly.
Mission
Mission accomplished. Put up the banner.
Can we agree that if we were all to be the same, that we should strive to be like the people from Louisiana?
You know, I'm from Louisiana, so I accept
See?
that. Yes.
See? Kind, good food, great accents. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
All right, we're going to move along topic-wise here to Ash Wednesday social media posts. Buy or sell? You're going to buy into this one. You're going to sell it. What do you think? I always have been making the joke that there's nothing more social media than Ash Wednesday itself. What other opportunity do you get to wear something around that you received at Mass for the rest of the day in an outward display without having to say or tell anyone about it? There it is. But I always think this is an interesting one with the pay attention to me movement that we have going in our society. Father Blake, you want to start us off here?
Oh gosh, you're throwing me right into the den of lions here.
Yeah, let's go deep dive on this one.
I have parishioners watching this show. I'm gonna be crucified tomorrow. That'd be the beginning of my Lent. You know, I'm gonna have to put ashes on their heads. They'll be like, I know what you really think, Father. Yeah, I mean, buy or sell, my children. Whatever makes you happy. But two things. I would say, on the one hand, there's something powerful about having a sign, a symbol. That's part of Catholicism. I do like the fact that on Ash Wednesday, you go to Publix, so you go to the supermarket, and you have ashes on your head, and people are like, oh, wow, you are a Catholic. So there is something beautiful there that's evangelical and a witness. At the same time, using it, I think, as a social media prop opportunity, we just always have to question ourselves with that. And especially, it's like, I guess it's how you hold the camera too. If it's like that typical Instagram pose where it's mostly not your head and just like your backside, I would have questions. It's like, look at my Ash Wednesday head. But yeah, so I think we definitely don't want to use it as a prop for a social media post. But at the same time, there is something powerful about that. We have millions of people around the world wearing ashes on their head on one single day. It's a pretty cool thing as Catholics. So that's as much as I'll say that hopefully won't get me in trouble with all my parishioners tomorrow. That's
fair. It's fine to walk the line. We all have things that, come up in that regard.
What you really want me to
say. Matthew, why don't you say all the things that Father Blake didn't want to say?
It's stupid. Mic drop. Walk away. Take a picture of your forehead if you want. You look weird. But I actually think in like real talk, I'm not going to be as dramatic as I usually am, but I do think it's something really cool when you see people of import, right, on TV doing things with this public sign of remembrance, like from which we came to which we go, right? I do think that is really cool. And I do think it is cool. Like I do, if you're doing it to be like, oh, look how Catholic I am because you feel forced to, then it doesn't make any sense. But like, I do think it is a good public example, other than it just kind of being weird that you're taking a picture of my forehead or your forehead.
That is fair. Would you assume, Jonathan, that posting ashes of yourself, ashes on your forehead of picture of yourself on social media to be above or below the people that need to take pictures of all their food?
Okay, people who take pictures of all of their food are good. That little like tag about people, that little bio is going to be in the bio of saints in 2,000 years because food is great and everybody loves food. It unifies everybody, and I love people who post about food. Please, Marco.
I have 35 pictures of food for you from Oxford.
He does that just for me because he loves me, and that's what happens when you love someone. You share food. Here's my thing with this whole Ash Wednesday thing. The whole hashtag trend is stupid. If you post hashtag, I'm blocking you. If you take my line that I have been saying since I was wearing a starter jacket, which is get your ash to mass. I made that up when I was in my Tennessee starter jacket at 8 years old, and someone started tweeting it a couple years ago, and I should have tweeted it first. If I see you post get your ash to mass, I'm banning you and blocking you on every single platform. But here's the thing. Ash Wednesday in general, I think, is one of the best ways we can evangelize in 2022 as Catholics. So post it away. When I went to NCYC as an 8th grader and saw 20,000 young people in an NFL stadium praying, it was the first time I ever realized I wasn't alone as a Catholic. I had no idea. I was in my parish forever. And the second time I realized I wasn't alone as a Catholic was Tony Reale. Tony Reale, Around the Horn on ESPN, what this show is based off of, who every year does a show on ESPN owned by Disney with ashes on his head. And it for years, it was the second time I realized I wasn't alone. So be Catholic, be proud of it. Don't wash them off and change the world.
Amazing. Well, Bridget, it's going to be hard to follow that if you don't get your ash to mass. So why don't you take it away?
Oh man, and I have to go early, like the 6 a.m. That's where I'm at. So those ashes are on all day. But you know what? I'm buying this all day long because this is legitimately the best conversation starter, period. Like if you have people who follow you on social media that had no idea that you're a Catholic because your social media isn't like that or whatever, like this is it. Like this is the touch point, right? Like I remember I worked at an office. I was the only Catholic there. I didn't talk about it in the office. It wasn't that kind of place. It wasn't a Christian place. So came to work one day with ashes on my forehead. One of my coworkers literally like, oh, you got something on your forehead, rubbing them off. And I was like, oh, no, here's what's happening. Like, here's the stuff. Like, and then she's like, I've never really like seen anyone do that, which was striking to me because she was an older woman. Like, this is the conversation point, right? Like, this is where we can teach people and where we can invite them into the fold and like tell them what the ashes really mean. Like, take that selfie, do it from the side if you have to, but all day I'm buying this, post it on social. I don't care, do your thing, but I say rock those ashes.
Yeah, I agree with all of you in different ways. And it's interesting as well because I am about to tomorrow morning go get ashes and then walk in to work for the rest of the day at a Jewish country club. So conversations will be had. And I would not be surprised if, not for any particular reason, but to run into an experience like Bridget has where like there's something on your face and just all day having to be like, yep, it's there on purpose. I promise.
To remind me I'm dying.
Right, exactly.
Memento mori, gotta go climb my bed.
I was like, this just got dark. Is there a barista here? Let's see. Next topic. Yes, Jurassic Park, and does CGI ruin movies? So we did have a discussion about this, and we knew we had some topics that were a little bit heavier tonight. We wanted to lighten it up. For some reason, this is the most adamant that any of these people will be about this particular topic. But you know what? I love it, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think Father Blake presented this as a topic for tonight, so I'm going to have him start it off, and I do have some videos to share as we go with our conversation. So go ahead, Father Blake.
Yeah, so I recently saw the new Jurassic Park trailer, okay? And I remember seeing the original Jurassic Park as well. And I was so disappointed watching this Jurassic Park trailer because it's just over the top, completely just crazy, mostly fake animation through CGI. And I thought back to my childhood experience of seeing the original Jurassic Park directed by Steven Spielberg, where they had the animatronics, remember? And they had stunt doubles and the cars would actually blow up with like real fire. And I thought, God, that movie was so much better. Like the effects were just so much better because it's actually real. So they got me down this rabbit hole saying CGI, in my opinion, has just ruined movies. I think they've taken away the creativity in movies. They've taken away the artistry, especially of special effects. And they've taken away a lot of the humanity from movies as well, like the use of real talent instead of virtual talent. So if you go back and even see something like the movie Patton, which is a great World War II movie, or look at like Dances with the Wolves, or some of these other war era movies, or even the fantastic movies like Star Wars, the things that they had to do to create these special effects were so incredible. And I think it's become a lost art. And I would love to see us go back to a more realistic kind of movie making. So yeah, in my opinion, CGI has really, it's overused, and it's just, it's taken away the realism out of film for me. I was disappointed.
Yeah, I could see that for sure being a situation, especially with the way modern trailers work. Like on numerous occasions, I have felt like I don't even have to see that movie anymore. Like they revealed that the old cast from Jurassic Park, the original, is going to be in the new one. Like, what a great nugget that would have been to find out in the theater that, like, oh, look at this, that playing on the past, franchise. But no, we have to know about it in the trailer that all those people are gonna be there. And Chat does make a good point that Fortnite is CGI, so we as a stream team can't get too hard on it, but nonetheless. But Matthew Marcolini has some experience within the film industry, so I'm excited to hear his take on this. Go for it.
CGI is making the film industry lazy, complacent, right? And the point of CGI isn't to be the main dish. It's to be the amuse-bouche. It's to be an accent upon the main thing. On-screen effects were one of the greatest things lost to CGI.
Yeah.
In the actual film industry. Also, I don't understand. So CGI is extremely sequel oriented, right? Because the whole idea, you're not letting plot drive the story. You're letting more explosions, more cool music and effects, and more crazy, making Tony Stark look like he's lost 150 pounds, right? You're not worried as much about the story as you are the accoutrement, as they say.
As they say.
This is your greatest take of all time.
Who says that?
I love him.
It's the suit jacket,
Matthew
right?
Marcolini.
Well, now I just need to do my little thing, my little mustache. Even better. Now I say accoutrement.
Now you look like you should be tying someone to the railroad tracks.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean that's honestly the biggest issue with CGI is that it's made us complacent, it's made us lazy. I mean, if you have to talk about CGI in a film, CGI has missed the ball, right? Like that, and that's what made Star Wars, the original Star Wars, so great. That's what made other movies with on-screen effects so great. That's what made the most recent Star Wars adaptation so great, is because they went back to on-screen effects. Not that we can't use CGI, right? I do think when you're talking about Thor and all of these things, you go into these big, beautiful places, sure, you can't make a cityscape out of that, but you could build a model of it, right? And then you use CGI to render it a little bit better, to make it look more realistic, to have the car flying through, instead of relying 100% on computer image.
I think CGI has taken away, le joie de vivre, as they say. So.
Does anyone have any other French words they want to drop in the chat? Maybe. As they say. So here's before John and Bridget give their take, I put a couple of clips together, very short clips. Please keep in mind that they are just from PG-13 movies. But here we go. Clip number 1. I want you to view this from a perspective of how concerned are you about the characters. Ready?
We're subordinate to it.
Clip number 1. All right? Clip number 2. All right, so I feel as though that kind of perfectly articulates Father Blake's point in this regard, and Matthew Marcolini's to a certain extent, in the idea that like you can just absolutely do stuff with practical effects that actually bring more out of the story-driven experience, right? And the reason that those kids were so terrified was because that thing was actually going to eat them. They weren't acting. That was how a child would react in front of a giant dinosaur face. Like there was no, that's just how it goes. So like I feel like there's definitely something that gets lost in translation somehow with CGI. Some of it might be the actors, some of it might be them pushing too far to just see what they can do from an artistic perspective. But I don't know, what do you think, John? You got a hot take here?
Sure. Has CGI ruined movies? Yes. CGI has ruined every movie that was made before CGI came out. Interstellar, Avatar, Transformers, Inception, Matrix, War of the Planet of the Apes, The New Jungle Book, Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange, Gladiator, Spider-Man. CGI is insane. Never go back. I love it. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's some new Western films that have come out lately with not a lot of CGI, and I can appreciate it and I can love it. But I'm gonna tell you, bro, like Interstellar and Inception are two of my favorite movies, and it's like 95% CGI. I love it. It's so fun. I have a willing suspension of disbelief. How's that for a movie term? I wish I knew it in French. And so I don't care because I just am along for the ride. Now, when they're using CGI, I'm there and I love it. Pro CGI, baby.
Right. So this is a rare situation here because of my background where I get to correct John. And the reason he likes Interstellar and what was the other one you mentioned? What was the other?
Avatar, Transformers, Inception, Matrix, World of the Planet of the Apes, The New Jungle Book, Avengers.
You mentioned Interstellar. Like half of those are trash.
CGI use.
Right.
Okay.
But it was the reverse, that 95% of those are practical effects. That's what Nolan does in a lot of his films. And then 5% of them are.
Told you.
That's okay. I'm happy to do it. We can watch the documentary together.
Let's do it.
But it's one of those things that is like, it can be a little icing on the cake. So just before Bridget goes, I have one more, little clip that I thought kind of articulated what we were just discussing. So here we go.
Suspension de l'incrédulité.
As they say.
As they say. All right. Here we go.
We're racing toward the extinction of our species. We not only...
Okay, so here we have a CG effect mixed with a practical effect. And so your brain is telling you, I'm nervous for her. She's underwater. That's a practical effect. That's real. The shot itself is real. And then they're putting an additional threat to enhance the circumstance with the mouth of a dinosaur over the top, like creating that. But your brain, the psychology of your brain goes to, she's holding her breath. I'm nervous for her. Right. And so like now you have a story driven plot that is, enhanced by the CG that goes along with it. Bridget, if you have anything left to talk about, I will be shocked.
Well, in that scene, I was like, why is the water so cloudy? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
This is the problem with CGI. It messes with your brain, man. I don't like CGI, but this is coming from a former theater person, did 7 years of props in theater, and props is hardcore, we got to figure this out, right? And so I love movies where they figure it out, they find a way to make it work, they try to trick people with cool things that you can do. I love that creativity. I love when it's in movies because it's a theater thing that it gets lost, and because of computers, movies can do it, and it's not an easy out, it's just a different platform, right? But I love it when people bring those foundational theater elements into live film and into movies. And to me, CGI just messes it all up. Keep it in video games. I'm cool with being in video games. You guys are great, but I want the real thing in movies. I want to see how people can manipulate things and manipulate the properties of things and make it awesome. So that scene was so weird to me. I loved the one with the car and the kids and yeah.
Are you saying Fortnite's not real?
We're gonna have a problem.
Is that what you're saying, Bridget?
Buy or sell.
Wow.
Buy or sell. I'll leave you with this. The Corridor Crew is a fun little YouTube channel that just analyzes special effects. They have their own little effects studio, and their marker for quality is, can you tell that it is a CGI effect or not? Like, if you have to ask the question, like, I don't know, that could, like, what do you think they could have done there in that, maybe this is CG, but that's not. If you can sit there and analyze it, then it must have done something to enhance the story, right? If it's just a bunch of dinosaurs, fighting each other along with giant robots, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that that's actually happened before, and it's actual real footage from when I was growing up as a toddler. Moving on.
Overall,
accents. Oops, I overlaid too many graphics. Our favorite regional accents. So this was a fun one that is driven by this little video that we're about to watch, right?
Is the sound going to work on this one?
The sound is not working for you guys, but it is working on chat.
Amazing. Perfect.
So I do apologize for that, but you guys have seen it.
the overall, you talk about growth, the growth with Brandon Clark and Jaron's defensive games. Y'all's as a trio, a big.
Where are you from, bro?
Oh, I'm from Tennessee.
Oh, that's a sick accent, bro. I haven't heard that before. That's awesome, dude. That's sick.
I appreciate the kind. I'm a fan of yours as well. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you, sir.
Cheers, mate. Sorry, mate. Go ahead.
No problem.
So just a fun little moment with people being caught off guard, where a dude goes, I haven't heard that accent before. What's the deal with that? Which I always find to be super entertaining. And I know, Bridget, you brought this one up. So do you have a favorite regional accent?
I grew up, so I was born in Louisiana and I grew up most of my life in Houston, Texas. So a lot of those accents I'm used to. And, Houston, it's a melting pot of all kinds of accents. So you get exposed to all sorts of things. But it wasn't until that I worked in Illinois that I had ever heard like the accents around like Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. It's like that Midwestern kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so sweet. Like my roommate, her name was Amanda. She had the cutest little Midwestern accent. Like I loved it. And I just never heard that until I was like in my early 20s. So I think it's just so precious and it makes me remember those fond memories of her. But, obviously Louisiana accents I love and Texas accents.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as like, oh, that's so cute.
Only spending time in the Midwest, I don't identify it until, it comes up occasionally in like a script where it's like, regional Midwestern accent. And I'm like, it's so like how everybody talks, but that's just me. Matthew Marcolini, what is your favorite regional accent and why is it French?
Offended. No, my favorite American regional accent, or just like we're sticking to the continental U.S. here.
I guess you could.
The accent.
I guess you could go outside the box and take it wherever you want to take it.
As they say. No, cutest regional accent, to build on what Bridget said, is a 3-year-old little Irish child. They have the cutest lilt on the face of the planet. It is absolutely adorable. Favorite accent in the U.S. Probably was my grandmother's accent, who had a thick Kentucky Appalachia accent. That's just super sweet. She was crazy, but her accent was super sweet.
Nice. Father Blake, you've got a lot of impressions you can do across the board of regional accents. Let's give you a point for everyone that you pull off successfully.
Oh my!
No, I'm just kidding. You can just give us your favorite. You can just give us your favorite.
How did Father Blake offend half of our audience?
I'll do that.
My favorite accent by far is definitely, meaning American accent. I probably overall is Virginian aristocrat.
The Piedmont
aristocrat. Okay.
The Piedmont.
This is the accent that made the world fall in love with America. Okay. This is how George Washington would have spoke. This is Thomas Jefferson. So they have this Southern drawl. They talk very sophisticated. And my grandmother's from Virginia, and that's how she talks. She said, I do declare, Blake, I do not know if that bun is perhaps what you need today.
So Foghorn Leghorn, that's your choice. Yes! Foghorn Leghorn.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's so classy. So it isn't a draw. It's not like, country twang or anything like that. Like, it's just this very sophisticated, takes his time, understands it well, and I'm fascinated with it. It's so enculturated. It's great to hear them like quote Aristotle or Plato with that accent, because usually these are people who are very well read in politics and education. So I just love, Virginian aristocrat. It's very unique, very niche. accent, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah.
All right. Well, John, take us home. Favorite regional accents.
All right. So I think it's first important to recognize that accents exist.
Okay. All right.
And
Because
here's
earlier
my-
we established we
yeah.
were all the same, but now you're saying we're not. Okay. Got
Yes.
it. Got
And
it.
so here's my order of accents, as they say. My favorite accent in the world is an Irish accent, and I mean like in the farm areas, like 45 minutes outside of Dublin and outside of Galway, where I got to stay at this Airbnb, and they were the sweetest couple. I'll fetch you from the pub later, and we have a fresh breakfast for you. And I was just like, please say that 2 more times. I love it. This is insane. My second favorite is Tennessee. My grandma's from Tennessee, and I was just at an event in Nashville, and everyone was so nice after every talk. Oh, that was so great. That was amazing. That's just what I needed. And I was like, how come you're so nice? Everyone from Tennessee is great. And these 3 ladies all stopped, and they're like, we're not from Nashville. We're from Southern Tennessee. And I was like, oh, even better. This is great. And then I like Australian accents, and then the Cajun accent. And then at the way bottom, you get all the way down, you pass the horrible Midwestern Wisconsin accent to like, it's horrible. At the way bottom is the Boston accent.
Oh,
We need to get rid of that ASAP. I parked my car in the Harvard yard. Stop talking. It's annoying. But here's one thing I find interesting. I want this concept. I've heard of this. It's real. It happens, and I sometimes do it with a Southern accent when I go to places. So speech accommodation, part of it in very like just simple terms, is that we sometimes talk like the people. We do that, and I hate when I do it, and I catch myself doing it, but it's apparently very normal and a thing, and I catch myself doing it most often when in Tennessee.
Yeah, I would say that really the impressions of all your accents really pushed you over the top. And while I appreciate everyone's input, our winner tonight is CEO of Little Flower Media, John Bearded Blevins.
I got my first win.
This is your first win. Don't keep track of your stats. It'll just depress you. But congratulations on tonight. As per usual, John now gets 30 seconds to talk about anything that he would like to discuss. It could be, a plug for his new media company. It could just be a shout out about how much he loves his wife and family and how they're his whole life and they support him and his wife is a saint. It could be any of those things. I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea where he's going to go, but I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
Doing it live.
We're doing it live. We're starting now.
Everything that you said, I want to say is the greatest thing ever, but I want to talk about a couple of things here. Number one, Matthew Stafford. Everybody who ever doubted, you owe me a direct apology, an email, a DM, a tweet, you name it, I will accept it. The greatest of all time. He did it. He'll do it again. He'll probably win 4 more. I'm not done. I have 10 more seconds. I want to talk about Michigan basketball, beating Michigan State by 19 right now and destroying Ohio State in football last season. Watch out. Go blue. One pride. Go Detroit.
Amazing. Concise, a perfect 30 seconds, and it absolutely rivals Joel Stepanik's last rant or, 30 seconds of fame, whatever you would like to call it. But really, really strong stuff. I want to go ahead and thank all of our guests tonight. Obviously, Marco and Jonathan, I see a lot of, and you guys are always great. But Father Blake and Bridget, always a pleasure to have you. We appreciate your love and support in this project. And how awesome it is to get to talk to you guys. And also how entertaining it is to just set up the show. Like, even on my end, when we start a text chain and we get some conversations going, I mean, you guys are awesome. Always appreciate your input and everything and for making us better people by knowing you. All right. Does anyone have anything to add before we sign off for the evening? Jonathan, is there anything I'm forgetting?
No, but this was my favorite episode, probably. I don't really know why, but you guys are great, and I'm excited to see where God takes this.
This is exciting stuff. All right.
Last.
Everybody. We.
For Jeremy, hold on. Listen here, Morty. All right, that was it. That was just for Jeremy.
Fantastic stuff. All right.
A lot of game left.
Thanks very much, you guys. We will see you next time. Have a great one.